about it.
Hold up. Check it out.
That was real good. That was money, first of all.
Let's do another one.
Okay.
What is up, everyone? I am Chris Knight. This is the Real Review 3000, and this is my drive home. Affectionately called Knight Rider. Go figure, right? Really clever. Yeah, so if you're watching this, I see a lot of who's in here. If you're watching this, do me a favor. Share it out on your favorite social media. Smash that like button, and let's get some people in here. I did tweet it out. If you're on Twitter and you follow me, you can retweet that out. But let's talk a little bit about last night if you watched it. On Fade to Black Radio. What's going on, danger driver? Keep your eyes on the road. I am. It's right there. See, it's right. Road's right that way. Last night, live stream of Fade to Black Radio, Jimmy Church had Pete McCarthy. Pete McCarthy has a channel called Creepy Little Book. Really fun channel. Talks about occult, Bigfoot, UFOs, angels, all sorts of stuff. And if you got to watch that last night, it was a real fun interview. I've been talking to Pete for a few years now. I'm looking forward to, if I ever get the chance to get over there on a show. I think Saturday or Sunday nights is when he is like one night of the week that I might be able to do it. If I'm reading your messages, I'm not keeping my eye on the road. No, I'm keeping my eye on everything, including the road, because people don't know how to drive. That's how it goes. But so last night they were talking about Antarctica, all that crazy stuff that I don't know. There's been lots of talk about Antarctica from things like a secret Nazi base that was underneath the ice that they put there. It's still there. I think they said U-boats could go there, things like that. They talked about that. They talked about the different maps and how a lot of maps go farther back than even the first person to actually explore it, they say. I can drive, Dandelion. Don't worry about it. But you found out a lot of interesting stuff. And if you didn't know it, go back, look up Fade to Black Radio. I'm pretty sure that video is still up, the interview, and watch it. There's a lot of things you learn about Pete that I knew stuff about that. And I knew that, I knew a lot of that stuff about myself, but it was interesting to hear about Pete, that he got interested in it also. So, he got interested into a lot of the occult and other things because of his involvement with the church, and that he thought about going into the priesthood at one time. So it was, that was interesting because I never expected to hear that about him. Now, I didn't expect to go into the priesthood or anything like that by any means. But I find that a lot of the stuff that's out there in the world that's unexplainable and stuff is more explainable if you dive in deep to other things. So listening to them talk last night, it reminded me of all the times I used to do a number of different jobs, including the time that I was in the military. Things like just driving around doing deliveries and stuff and listening to Coast to Coast AM. Somewhere in the Desert, I believe, was another one. Art Bell, George Norrie, Phil Pundin, I think, is another guy that does those things. Well, most of the things are explainable to an extent. Dandelion, but they're not. They're not without questions. I think it's really interesting to think that it was only about 2 to 3 years ago that the Catholic Church actually acknowledged the fact that we're not the only ones in this universe. For years, they refused to acknowledge that. Oh, well, no. You see, the Alex Jones thing, though, Alex Jones, he's, yeah, I don't mind Alex Jones sometimes, but he's not my favorite to listen to. Like I said, Art Bell is like literally one of my favorites, and he's been gone for, I think, going on 4 years now. But it was just interesting to listen to it last night and to hear all the things that he had to say about Antarctica, and then also they got into, like I said, a little bit of his show and all the stuff he goes on to. Well, see, that might be true, Dandelion, but there's a lot of stuff that I've personally dealt with that I've witnessed that is, in some extent, not explainable. And nobody's getting money from me because of it. So, hey. I've always said that, if you believe in psychics or whatnot, I don't know. Some people do, some people don't. I've only believed people who claim to have that ability, who I've actually heard that they've basically, they don't charge for it, or they don't charge every time or something like that. A lot of the ones that go to police and say, hey, I have information, I can help you solve this case. There are plenty of instances where police officers have made, or detectives have come out they've come out and said, well, this guy came and said they had information, and then then they were, they helped us solve this case, and we didn't ask them to. And they'll say, oh, well, they said they were psychic, they said they saw these visions or whatnot. It's happened before. They're not getting money from me. Nope. I don't pay money for that stuff. Plus, open-mindedness to things that are otherworldly, I think, is an interesting thing. It just depends. You know what I love doing is driving around and seeing all these people with these are dabbling in evil. No, what's going on, Darren? Good to see you. What's interesting driving around, like I have a person in front of me that has a Texas temporary tag, and what's funny is the part that has the year on it is ripped apart. And I find it really funny. Here, hold on. Let me see if I can. I can't get to it really quick. But it's just really funny. I'm seeing this, and it's like, how do you know that it's the right year? What's going on, Darren? How is your day going? Are you off today? Make sure you share this out on your favorite social media. I would greatly appreciate it. We got 3 people watching. Smash the like button. Oh, you got done with work about an hour ago. Oh, that's right. It's about, what is it for you? It is 4:51 for you, I believe. But yeah, so going back, I mean, if you didn't get to watch it, I think it's interesting. And whether or not any of it's real or not, I'm not one of those people that sit there and emphatically say that it's absolutely true or the things you hear are true. but sometimes it's interesting to think of where the things come from. It's kind of like, Christians who sit there and talk about the Bible. Oh, you're Central Time too? Okay, gotcha. Um, Christians who are emphatically in belief that the Bible is 100% gospel law, word for word, everything is, you can't deny it. That is exactly how it happened. And you bring up to these people the fact that every major civilization, Aztecs, Greeks, Romans, the Norse, the Chinese dynasties, a lot of these things, they all had very similar creation stories or very similar flood stories. And it was like, it's trying to tell people that, these things are a lore that you have read. It's not like, if you believe in God, it's not like God came and said, here's the exact words I want you to put down on this page. Exactly. So a lot of this stuff, a lot of the, Chupacabra, even Loch Ness and, just Krampus and all of that stuff, it stems from lore, and it stems from things that were, oh, if you do this, this will happen to you. And it was there, and I won't leave, not necessarily saying absolute control, but it was designed to control or keep people from doing certain things. Well, if you're Christian, you're not supposed to not like any part of the Bible. Of course, then Christians are the first people to judge people, which in the Bible, that's not something you're supposed to do. So, go figure, right? Can't remember what somebody said one time, that people in the Bible do a lot of telling people what not to do, then those people who told people not to do it, go and do it. The Chupacabra is, I'd say, the iteration that people know now is, there are similar stories that are like that. I mean, like the Mothman prophecies, those things, that's kind of new. The Pacific Northwest, the, mountainous regions of the United States, Canada, those, the Bigfoot stories. I mean, I can't deny that they probably came from the Yeti, the stories of the Yeti. Yes, Dandelion, there's that too. Again, think about when this was written. Holding things that are hundreds, thousands of years old to today's standards is kind of ridiculous. It's kind of something that you're like, well, you can't do it that way. You can't talk about that because it doesn't work that way. What's going on, Drop Shop? Good to see you. We all know slavery is wrong. We all know that it's not something that should be around. But that doesn't necessarily mean that we should be wasting our resources telling people or rewriting things that had it in there. We know it's not there. We've already written we've already changed it in our laws, all of that. I think that there's something to be said that, people evolve past those things. Son of a red sun. What's going on? I call him Soros for short. SOARS. Yeah, Chupacabra are for kids. Sasquatches where it's a baby. Except no substitutes. OG forest monster, Bigfoot for the win. Laugh out loud. What did I stumble into this time, Chris? It just drive home. I drive home and I talk, which I love to do. You guys should know that. I was talking about, I got started on all this because I was talking about last night's show that Pete from Creepy Little Book was on with Jimmy Church, and the Fade to Black radio interview that he did last night. I highly suggest, if you want interesting and interesting stuff to listen to, that's where you should go. Things like that. Listen to Coast to Coast AM if you do. If you don't, do that. When I used to travel across the country, every time I go through California, they used to have what they call the desert stations. They don't have them anymore, as far as I know, because everything's gone to satellite radio and stuff. But the desert stations had like your country station, your rock station, your oldies, your, all this stuff. And it was for the truckers. The truckers could just put it on one thing and they could listen to it for the 3-4 hours they're driving through the desert. And one of those stations was talk radio, and that's when I first heard Coast to Coast AM. And I remember listening to Art Bell, and I was listening to these stories and these people, and it's amazing because you get some people on there, you're like, wow, I can really buy into their story. And then you get some people on there, you're like, oh my God, this guy is a loon. And it's just really great listening, and it keeps you on your toes. It keeps you awake, truthfully. That was the best reason for listening to it. Is like, you never knew when some crazy guy was going to come on. I actually remember one time listening to Coast AM, where this guy claimed that he had like something like a Bigfoot or something outside of his house, and he had the window open, and he literally put the phone out, and you could hear this heavy breathing outside. Now, I understand it's a phone, you don't have video proof or anything like that. But it was really compelling, and you could hear fear in his voice. And it was interesting that it seemed somewhat believable what he was talking about. Again, I've worked in radio. I know that for entertainment value, you can set up certain events and make things happen on radio, or say, hey man, I want you to call in at such and such time and do such and such thing. And if you do radio, you know that the host, whoever that is, can make you believe that this is not set up. It's just the same thing as like magic. The crazy YouTube drive, yes. A lot of people, skepticism, pick is too fuzzy, must be something else. Well, it's not necessarily. Skepticism, I think, is always built into it. That's what keeps it interesting. If you flat out prove something, then it's no longer a mystery. It's no longer something that has a lure to it. It becomes now something we'll dissect and try to figure out. So, like, if there was really a Bigfoot, if there is a Bigfoot, if they find it, if it's a creature that's endangered or something that's very rare, well, what are they going to do to it? They're going to want to study it, and that's like crazy. I mean, it's like it's best to leave those things alone if it's true. Let me look up here really quick. Darren Wagner said a lot of people who attempt to read the Bible confuse description with prescription. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, but Coast to Coast thing, it was like, here was this thing that I could listen to that, sometimes they just have psychics on. Sometimes they would have, people talking about, not necessarily anything otherworldly, but like a cult and stuff like that. Yeah, exactly. Well, gorillas were too, if you think about it. There were a lot of those things that were at one time considered myth. And of course, the first thing people go to is like, oh my God, there's cameras in every other, corner of the globe, and you can find, we see things. Everything's seen now by a camera, and they're like, well, there's no way with everything on camera now that you couldn't see it. But we don't know a lot about the ocean either. There's certain things that people just, if it's a small number of things, you may never see. And so I like to keep my mind and my beliefs open to things. I wouldn't consider it a belief that I believe in all of that stuff. I don't necessarily, but I don't disbelieve either. I find it necessary to keep my my options open. Um, I believe that there's a lot of things that the world that we aren't told. I've talked to people before about I love conspiracy theories. The only thing I ask of conspiracy theories is that it not be absolutely ridiculous. I look for things that are believable within conspiracy theories. Giant squids, you're right. Yeah, but the thing is, the giant squid they were talking about, I'm not sure. I know that I think the longest or the largest is like 20 some odd feet. They were talking about 60, 70 feet. I think they might have found a 30-foot one at one time. Not positive about that. Not home to look things up on my computer. What's going on, Sherry? Good to see you. So fast. Obviously, we know what we can get Dandelion for her birthday. We can get her a panda bear. Always interesting. 80 plus feet on camera. Okay. I know that's the colossal squid, though. I think is what you're talking about. The giant squid, I think, is 30 some odd feet. I'd have to go back and double check on that. But yeah, there's all those things out there that people thought weren't real, and then they were. Now you could say, oh well, the Loch Ness monster. The guy came out and said, oh no, that was a bath toy, and I put this dinosaur on it, and I photographed it. He said that on his deathbed. But there's other things that have been shown that it makes it very difficult. Well, like I said, I think it's called a colossal squid. A giant squid, I think, was 30, but I could be wrong. Like I said, I can't remember. I watched something on Discovery or National Geographic about it, because this group of people went looking for it to prove that it existed. Yes, they did. Elihu. Well, that's what I'm saying is that there's been it's kind of arrogant of humans of today's world to think things such as there's no other life in the universe. That, oh well, that can't exist because we know everything. Those things are, Greeks and Romans, they all thought things, and then we found out later it wasn't true, or that wasn't real. It was this, not that. And who's to say that isn't still happening? More often than not, that's probably still happening. We don't want to watch you rear end anyone. You're not going to. Trust me, that's not going to happen. The road's right in front of me, and I'm looking at the road. Oh, yes. We're almost getting home. Oh, wow. Yay. Well, so we'll get close to wrapping it up. Guys, if you're watching, do me a favor. Later on tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we will be live with the Rule of Three over on Chaos Central. Check that out. 3 questions, 3 minutes each, 3 minutes as a group. We talk about all sorts of stuff. Yeah, and then coming up soon on Friday, The gaming ego is going to be back, and we're going to be playing some Super Mario Odyssey. Super Mario Odyssey. Famous last words. Listen, I wasn't on camera when I got into that hit and run, so that wasn't my fault. Yeah, but Friday, Gaming Ego, Super Mario Odyssey. Tonight, the Rule of Three. Next week, on Monday, will be the Gospel According to Chris with Darius Munchausen. Sunday, will be weekly wrap up and the Boba Fett Roundtable Group 1 and Group 2. All of that fun stuff. And yeah, thank you for those of you who came over and spent some time with me. We're running right about 30 minutes on this, which is about what I like to do. It's time for me to go inside, finish up some stuff for tonight's show, and then make dinner and, yeah, get rushed through the rest of the day. So thank you. Thank you for all of you who watched Dandelion. I didn't hit anybody. I don't hit anybody. I'm very careful, contrary to whoever believes whatever. Well, it just depends on traffic and stuff. Just like anything, you can get into traffic and it's like, ah! And plus, I started when I was still at work. Captain Trek, hello. By the way, Captain Trek, I wanted to thank you for being one of the generous members of the Real Review 3000. Thank you very much. No, I did not waste gas just to talk to you. Thank you very much. Anyways, guys, thank you for watching. And we're going to...
Please remember to like, subscribe, and never forget to ring that bell. Follow Chris Knight and The Real Review 3000 on these platforms. For email and Patreon, see the description box below. To reach The Ego, use the Twitter handle @TheEgo5150. We would like to thank the generous members of The Real Review 3000. Those members are JJ, aka Sithlord 3827, Anzo of Bigger Ford Entertainment, Yvette, Sean Stackhouse, Captain Trek, Jesse Ritchie, and Abraham Morales. Thank you for your support and donations that help us at The Real Review 3000 bring you, the viewer, better content. For information on how to become a member, click the join button below.